Okay, so just a really quick video about speed, distance, and time. So, how are speed, distance, and time related? Well, let's first think about the units. Okay, so speed is typically measured in something like, say, miles per hour. Okay, how many miles do I travel in an hour? That's your speed. If that was what speed was measured in, the distance would be measured in miles, and the time would be measured in hours. Okay, put a little line down here. Okay. Also, we could have said kilometers per hour, in which case distance in kilometers and the time would be in hours. That's usually for driving and trains and things like that. If we're doing, say, running, we might want to know meters per second. Okay, again, distance would be in meters and the time would be in seconds. Now, the units should give you a bit of a clue as to how these things are related. Okay, if you look at the units, if we take distance and divide that by speed, we end up with the same units. Sorry, haha, it's getting late. Distance divided by time, we get the same units as for speed. So speed is miles per hour. So miles, you can think of it as like miles divided by the hour, yeah? Which is the exact same units as distance if it's in miles and time if it's in hours. Okay, so this equation is the key to these problems. Speed is the distance divided by the time. So let's think of a nice practical example to that. So say a runner, okay, let's draw there is a little runner. Say he can run 10 meters every second, okay. Well, how far is he going to run in 10 seconds? 10 seconds, and what's the distance going to be? Okay, so that's our time, that's our distance, and we've got our speed. Well, very simply, speed is equal to distance divided by time. So we'll start off with that equation, and what we're going to do is rearrange our equation. So we are trying to find the distance, and to find the distance, we have to move the t up. So we end up with v times t, which is equal to d. So all I've done there is I've multiplied, technically what I've done is I've multiplied both sides by t. That's what I've done algebraically, okay? But actually an easier way to think about it is to say, well, let's look at our equation. Let's think about it as a triangle, okay? If we've got speed and we've got distance and we've got time, what to do is cover up the one that you're looking for. Okay, so in this case, we were trying to find D. Okay, so cover that up. Imagine that's not there. We can actually just see that V and the T sit next to each other. So it's V times T because they're next to each other, yeah? Let's do another one. Say we were trying to find Vs, not V because we know speed equals distance over time. Say we're trying to find time. Well, let's cover up time. We're left with D and V, and actually the D is on top of the V. Okay, so D divided by V is equal to T. Over here is D is equal to V times T. Okay. So actually, if you draw this equation out in a pyramid, all you need to do is cover up the one you're not looking for, and the equation will tell you if you're doing speed times time or distance divided by speed, and that helps you rearrange it. But the mathematician in me, what I'm actually doing here is rearranging to solve for b. So I multiply both sides by t, therefore t cancels out on this side and pops up over there. That doesn't really matter. Okay. So, kind of got plenty of time. If we're trying to find distance there, we know v is 10 and the t is 10. So it's quite simply 10 times 10 is equal to 100. Okay, and the units there would be meters. Now that makes sense to me. 10 meters every second is what the man travels. Okay, so at 0 he's here, and after 1 second he's just gone 10 meters. After 2 seconds he's gone another 10 meters. After 3 seconds he's gone another 10 meters, etc., etc. So instead of adding all that up, we're going to do the multiplication. We're going to do 10 meters times 10 seconds, 100 meters. Okay. Let's look at another question here. So let's kind of ramp up the difficulty level a little bit. We've got speed and we've got distance, and we're trying to find time. Okay, so let's draw out our pyramid. Where speed is equal to distance over time. So this time I'm going to draw a pyramid out like this. Okay, that makes it even easier to spot the sum that we're going to do. So I'm trying to find t. So I'm going to cover up t, and if I cover up t, I'm left with d divided by s. Okay, so t is equal to d divided by s. Now think about that. That does kind of make sense to me. If we think about the units for distance, okay, we've got 245 meters, and if we divide that by the speed, which is 70, sorry, it's not miles, sorry, miles. We divide that by 70 miles per hour. What happens here is the 2 miles cancel out, and you'll be left with an h. Okay, you'll be left with an hours. Okay, so in my head, I can kind of think, yeah, that does make sense to me. Okay. So let's try and do that some with a calculator, shall we? Now we could say 245 divided by 70. Yeah, so 70 into 2 doesn't go. I have to put a few zeros here. Carry the 2. 70 into 24 doesn't go. Carry the 2, 4, 5. Yeah, we could go down that route if we wanted. But I think it's easier, okay? Instead of saying 245 divided by 70, let's take away the 0. So let's divide the 70 by 10 to give us 7. And then let's divide 24.5 by 10. So if we divide both of them by 10, it's the same sum. Okay, now we're dealing with 7. That's a lot easier, isn't it? 7 into 2 doesn't go. Carry the 2. 7 into 24, that'll be 3. Fantastic. Carry the 3. And then 7 into, the points here, 7 into 35 would be 5. Okay, so what that's saying is 3.5 hours. 3.5 is your time. So 3.5 hours, or 3 hours and 30 minutes. And does that kind of make sense? Well, let's think of a distance. And if we've got 245 as our distance, 245 miles, we travel 70 miles every hour. So there's 70 miles. There's another 70 miles. There's another 70 miles. So that's 714. That's 210 miles. Okay, that's in 3 hours. Yeah. So visually we can see that. And what that's leaving us with is 35 miles. Now 35 is just half of 70, isn't it? So that bit in there, that 35 miles, is going to be half an hour. So you can visually see that the answer would be 3.5 as well without doing your equation. You just think on it as a distance that's covered in a series of 70s. 70 miles in 1 hour, 70 miles in another hour, 70 miles in the next hour, and then 35. Okay, but yeah, this would be the process that you use. So I've made that a wee bit messy, sorry, but yeah, if you're dealing with bigger numbers, you can divide both of these by 10 to reduce it down. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. Speed equals distance over time. If you want to draw that out as a triangle, just cover up the thing that you're trying to find, and then the actual triangle will tell you how your equation rearranges as well. Okay, thanks.